This is my Yamaha G2 motor conversion. The original motor blew up, so I put a 13 horse Briggs & Stratton motor in it. I use a lot of the original parts from around the motor. I took the motor base frame from the original one, welded a plate of steel in it, and then I put a 1x6 treated on top of it because I needed more lift for the cylinder to get over the rear end, because the rear end and the cylinder are really close. So I gave it that gap. That's the original clutch, belt, and alternator pulley. I bought a taper lock adapter from Vegas Cart. I did have to cut 3 inches off the shaft and retap it. The alternator is hooked up just like the original one. It charges the battery. It starts it. I used the original brackets off the carburetor, as you can see there, for the throttle, and that's a choke. I had to take and redo the top of the original motor there. That was a governor, and I hooked the governor off it, spun around, drilled a hole, and used the same linkage off it to run the carburetor. Didn't have to replace none of them cables. As you can see, the choke is back in there, and that's a 1-inch JB electrical box that I use for breather housing, and it goes to a radiator hose, which goes over to the original breather box. So I use the same breather box and just that old piece of hose I had laying around. The carburetor choke cable was just a little short, so I put a coat hanger, straight out piece of coat hanger, and bent a Z shape in it and stuck it in a hole I drilled in the choke lever and put a spring on it, as you can see. And all you do is pull it, it pops right back, works good. The only thing I wish I'd have done different is I had to drill a hole in the valve cover to get the fuel pump to work. That vacuum fuel pump, I wish I would have drilled the hole on this side or the other, because that side there where it's at, when the golf cart hits a hole or gets low, it goes down, hits the top, and breaks it off. So I had to put a 2-inch lift in it and a stop to keep it from getting that close. That's the custom exhaust. It is kind of loud, but it does work. If it gets to be too much noisier, I'll redesign something different there. I have a 5-pin ice cube relay. Normally closed position. It's hooked to the Briggs & Stratton motor through the kill switch. So when the pedal is pushed, it opens the contactor up, lets the motor run. We let off the pedal, the contactor closes and kills the motor. I basically got it wired in just the starter relays where it comes from. As soon as the starter relay gets activated, it opens it up, it runs it. So it does a good job of doing that. And for the alternator generator, the G2 models, according to the schematics, the way it looks is I don't need the ECM to run the voltage regulator. So it looks like it goes just from the generator to the voltage regulator back to the battery. So that was good. I didn't have to use the ECM off the original one and do a bunch of different wiring. That seems to work good that way. I just made a simple bracket off of that. That works pretty decent. I do have an oversized battery in it, for I use it here on the farm sometimes to jump equipment when it needs dead. It makes it nice. Just drive his little golf cart up to it and the jumper cables on it. And back to the vacuum for the fuel pump. I was finding that the vacuum was overpowering the fuel pump, or was overpowering the carburetor actually with too much fuel. So I put a little valve in here and I've adjusted it to where the vacuum's about right for don't put too much fuel in the carburetor, because it was causing the carburetor to flood out real bad. I did have to do that. I don't know if anybody else has had that problem, but I had to do that. And that is pretty much my conversion to a Briggs & Stratton motor. Oh, here it runs.